Hi, my name is Kruthi, and I'm here to guide you through some of the functionality of Nearpod today. So I'm going to start by building a lesson in Nearpod and showing you some of the basic features, and then I'll run through a student-side demo at the end. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen. It should be noted that the Nearpod stuff that I'm doing is on a monitor. So if you are looking at me and you think I'm not actually looking at the camera, it's because I'm looking at a monitor. So this is a landing page for Nearpod. I already have the new button pressed, but there's my library, there's reports, and those are the main things that I use in Nearpod. I think those are the two useful things. I'm going to show reports really quickly. So Nearpod does store student responses. That way you can go back and use it as a nice little collective for different quizzes or any kind of data collection that you need. There is not an automatic option to make your students anonymous in Nearpod, which is important to note, but you can always have them enter under a pseudonym. So if they want to put their name, then put another name. That way you know what preferred name to use, etc. Lots of different options. They have student engagement analytics, and then they have responses for each of the questions. So I had all of these different slides in my demonstration, and I can look at people's responses, whether they were correct. The best major is chemical engineering because it's my major. Stores poll responses, and also tells you which students didn't answer, so you can see maybe who's struggling. Open-ended questions, which has different things that people said, and we'll go through what all of these things actually are in a bit. Also, you can download these session reports as spreadsheets. So if you go here, you can either download it as a PDF or you can download it as a CSV, which is a spreadsheet. You can also share it in different forms. So to create a Nearpod lesson, we're going to go back to the landing page, which is not really necessary, but we're going to do it anyway, because I prefer it. And then we're going to go hit new, and we're going to do lesson in Nearpod. I personally prefer working in Nearpod rather than in Google Slides, just because I think the integration is an added layer of complexity that we don't necessarily need to work with. So we have a lesson here. I'm going to just call it Nearpod demonstration. And I will Nearpod demonstration 1. So really, okay, Nearpod demo, not emo. There we go. All right, sorry about that. So we're going to add just a few slides here, and Nearpod slides are either content or activities. So content is like you show a video and you might have a kids answer a question about it. You might show them something in 3D. You can integrate a PhET simulation, lots of different options. I'm going to show 2 different things. I'm going to show the 3D feature, which is very similar to the VR feature, and then I'm going to show the video feature. So for 3D, you can pick pretty much any object. I think it's useful if you want to get a close look at anything. So for example, lipid molecule. We want to talk about the phospholipid bilayer or something of that nature. So I can click into this slide. Hold on. I can click into it and then double click it, demo. I can zoom in on this stuff and get a real good look at this bilayer here. Look at the lipid heads, the hydrophilic tails, etc. Hydrophobic heads, hydrophilic tails. There we go. So 3D has lots of different options. I have done it with a great white shark just for fun when I was demoing this tool to some other teachers, and lots of options there. With VR, it's a very similar feature, except instead of dragging around an object, you are dragging around a place. So just as a quick example, I'm going to go to my favorite bridge in Portland. It's the Tillicum Crossing Bridge. Totally exists. There we go, Tillicum Crossing. And I can just add it. You can always hit preview if you want to get a quicker look of what these look like. But you drag around. This was like our newest bridge in Portland, Oregon, which is where I'm from. Hit enter VR. You can always go in. It's really cool if students are participating on their phones too, because then they get a really good look at everything. They can get the full 360, which is a little bit harder on a laptop or on a computer. Next, we're going to look at adding one more type of content, which is a video. So Nearpod actually has its own database of videos that it has already created, and they are organized by subject and grade level. For YSP purposes, I do not think that there are any elementary school science lessons, last I checked, or at least there's nothing that super matches up with the YSP curriculum. Maybe you'll find something that's more relevant to you. But you can always search by science and 3rd grade, which is what I have. And there are definitely some videos here that one can integrate. But if you don't necessarily like the Nearpod videos, or if you don't necessarily like these categories, you can always do YouTube Safe Search. Can't imagine what would be beyond the limits of YouTube Safe Search, but this is a video that I like to show. just for fun, I used to teach stop motion animation, so we would always lead with this video. It's called Fresh Guacamole, and it is of a dude making fresh guacamole. For some reason, it is not letting me click this and add it. But regardless, I'm just gonna hit save. All right, there we go, now it's working. So you can also show this video. If you guys haven't seen this before, it's a guy making fresh guacamole out of various objects. So that hand grenade is an avocado. It's a baseball that's actually like an onion. I'll play a few seconds, why not? Diced onions, okay. So you can always add in a little question. So for example, a question that I would usually ask at this point would be, what vegetable is Pez trying to emulate with the baseball? And this is maybe an unfair question to ask. Who knows what kind of exposure kids have had to vegetables, but the onion, bell pepper, it was supposed to be something other than a baseball. And this is one where there's a quiz question, so you have to put a correct answer, but there's also the option to put an open-ended question where you just want to ask students' thoughts. So what would happen when you run this lesson is you play it up to the 33-second mark, and then boom, the kids get a question, video pauses, and then you can keep going once they answer the question. So we're gonna save that, that's done. Next, we're gonna play around with some of the activities functions. So we go into add slide and then activities, and there are all of these different options. There's Flipgrid. I personally haven't had the best experience with Flipgrid. If you want to use Flipgrid, you can just use Flipgrid as separate from Nearpod. And also, time to climb is very similar to Kahoot. I will show it really quickly, just so you know what it looks like. It's very similar to building a Google form, and you can mark correct responses. You can add images. You can add big content images. You can add times to every single question if you choose. But for the most part, it's very, very similar to Kahoot. And I think Kahoot works a little bit better. But again, if you want to have a Nearpod lesson and then have a little review at the end, this is a great conclusion slide to add. So there is still a use for it. I'm just not going to do it right now. All right, so as far as other activities, my personal favorite is the Collaborate board. This is a great way to collect maybe student predictions or just quick student thoughts on any subject. I used it in a high school class about international studies, and our professor would just, I guess it was a teacher, would pose different questions about foreign policies or what do we think of this international issue. So in this case, we'll just put, what is your favorite topic in science? And then you can put a more detailed description in this section. You can add a little image. I like dinosaurs. I like the fossils lesson that we teach. I'm going to put a little triceratops in here. Perfect. All right. You can also change the layout depending on what your style is. I personally like this sticky note one, so I'm going to use this. I'm going to hit save. And when you launch this, you'll see a little bit more of what that Collaborate board can do. The last thing I want to do is show y'all the open-ended question. So you can just put in an open-ended question. This is a good way to collect conclusions or just ask students what their thoughts are. I also thought it was a good exit ticket type thing. So you can always put in a question like, what does science mean to you? Very vague question. You can leave a timer. You can also just like run it for however long you need. You can add different kinds of content in here as well. So the same types of content you could make into their own slide, you could also add here. For example, if I click video, I can once again search on YouTube, upload my own, etc. This one does not access Nearpod's own video database. So if you wanted to use those, you should probably start there first, go through content, videos, and then tack on a question in that video, kind of like I did in the fresh guacamole, but either option is available to you. And I will say students have 30 seconds to answer this question, but this can be anything. People could use this for essay questions if they wanted to. The world is your oyster. So we'll save that, and then I'll also put in a question just for fun. So poll question. Let's see. It's a good polarizing question. That's fine. I'll do the brownie question again. I think it's very revealing. What brownie in a batch would you pick? Center piece, edge piece, or corner, please. All right. You can also time all of these, totally up to you. We're going to save this and we're going to exit it. All right, so the very last thing I'm going to do is demo this. I'm actually going to launch the lesson on my iPad so that you guys can see what's going on the student side. So, provided that my iPad starts, of course. There we go. So I'm going to launch this one, the Nearpod demo that we just made. And you can make these either live participation or student-paced. If you have worked with Kahoot before, you know that there's a student-paced option that they can go with. Either one works in Nearpod, but we're going to do the live participation one. So I have the code on my iPad. If you want to look at my video screen right now, it gives me a join code. So I'm going to type the join code into my teacher view right here. If I were a student though, let's see what students would do. So you would go to join.nearpod.com. I've gone to it so many times. And then we just put in this code. When I ran this in a 3rd grade classroom, the students had a lot of trouble getting to this link. So that's just something to note. It takes a little bit of time, but they do get used to it. And then again, there's no option to join a lesson without a name. You do have to put in a name, but let's say that I am an anonymous student and my name is going to be Science today. Can you tell that this is a science program? All right, so the first thing is this is the student view. So the student just gets to do a lipid bilayer look. I can make this full screen if I want. You would just be like, all right, kids, like go ahead and look at the lipid bilayer. Tell me some things you noticed. And I'd be like, wow, there are some shapes and there are some other shapes and there are some bumps and there are some other shapes and they're all yellow. Why is it warm tone? I wonder. And maybe I'd write all of these things down. You can add other kinds of questions to this. You can tack on a question at the end. But this was a pretty non-cohesive lesson because I'm just showing different Nearpod features. All right, so while this is going, I can control from my iPad. This is still my teacher view. It's the join code. So I can advance in the lesson. And now I'm in the VR. So teacher side, again, if you look at my video, this is what I'm seeing on my iPad screen. I have to hit enter VR to make it full screen, and then I get those cool goggle things. But again, anything is possible. Fun fact about this bridge, there are no cars allowed on it. It's only a public transport, pedestrian, and cycling bridge. So if you are riding in a car, you are not allowed to use this bridge. Luckily, there are about a dozen other bridges in Portland you can use. Yay for the environment, we love. All right, I'm going to hit this blue arrow on the side to advance the lesson again. All right, so it says this slide contains a video and it's asking, where would you like this video to play? All devices or this device only. I'm going to say, so if you're sharing a screen, you would hit this device only. That way your students can all watch your screen. I'm gonna hit all devices in this case because I want y'all to be able to see the video. We're gonna hit all devices. All right, eyes up front, watch the video. Nearpod is taking its sweet time, but we're just gonna hit play on my own screen. And then you can see that the timestamp goes up until 33 seconds. I am a bad student who's not actually going to pay attention to everything, so I want this demo to go a little bit faster. So I'm going to go here. And then, boom, I have to hit next on the iPad. Oh, wait, hold on. All right, so I have to do this, and then I watch up until the little timestamp. And there should be a little question. That is odd. This has worked in the past. All right, I'm going to try it one more time. All right, so you come to the next slide. It asks, where would you like this video to play? All devices or this device only? I'm going to hit this device only. And then it says eyes up front. Student, this will play on your teacher's device. Come back when it's time for an activity, so it's going to play on the teacher's device. It'll advance to wherever you have to go to in the video. It's taking a very long time to load on my iPad, unfortunately. So trust me that it works though. I think part of it is the reason is because my iPad is a little bit outdated. It's a very old iPad. I've had it for 6 years. So I'm going to assume that that's why this is giving us some trouble. It does, I have had it work when I launch it from the computer though. Next thing is the Collaborate board. Would I like to approve student comments before they're posted? Yes, that's an option that will come up every time you launch a Collaborate board. And then I am a student. I'm going to go ahead and write a little response. My favorite topic in science. My favorite topic in science is paleontology. I think dinosaurs are neat. Then I'm going to post it. And it won't actually get posted until my teacher approves it. So I have a little request and I'm going to hit yes, I like that. Now it's posted. Students can go around and like each other's posts, etc. You guys get the idea. I can also post as a teacher side, so I can be like, I am the teacher post. And then it's posted. All right, we're gonna keep going. Last thing is the open-ended question. I'm gonna hit start activity on mine, and then boom, the timer is gonna start. And then, ooh, I'm a student, I have to write out my thoughts about science. Science is cool and fun. I hope my typing speed is sufficient for this question to be answered adequately. Live, love, laugh. Wish that there hadn't been any glitches with that guacamole video. Will update iPad as necessary. All right, and then I'm gonna hit submit. 3 seconds to go. It submits. I can hit share responses as the teacher. I can launch a quick little share so that other students can see each other's responses. It does do anonymity for this one unless I choose to show student names, but right now I'm choosing to hide them. Don't want students to necessarily have their names attached to their writing if for some reason they're uncomfortable. Last thing is the poll, selecting the correct response here, which is the edge piece. And because there's no one here, I'm just gonna hit share responses for my iPad. And now the students can see what everyone else is saying. Apparently my response didn't go through, but that's okay. All right, and then I'm going to end the lesson from my iPad. You usually just have to go up to the top menu that looks like this as the teacher. For a student side, it says exit, but teacher side, it says end session. And then it'll end the session. All right. So that is a basic rundown of Nearpod. I want to see if I can get that one question to work. So I'm going to try it one more time. If you want to launch it from a computer, you hit teach, and then let's say live participation. And we're just going to advance really quickly through all the slides. So you can see this is what the teacher side looks like. You have these little arrows. I'm going to say this device only. And then see, it's the entire video on here. So if I were joining, I get up to here, it stops, and then yes, this is what wasn't loading on my iPad, but I would hit start activity, and all of my students could start the activity. So that's what that would look like. I didn't want to leave that as a loose end. And if you have any questions about Nearpod, don't hesitate to ask me. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the screen share. So that's my Nearpod demo. I hope you guys liked it. And if you have any questions about how Nearpod works or how to do certain things in it, I love Nearpod a lot. My colleagues can attest to that. I'm very enthusiastic about it. So if you have any questions, go ahead and let me know. I hope you liked the demo.